say that for me, I know Takashi for a long time. When I first met him, I sensed an artistic talent which had not developed. So he came to Paris for 6 months, and the main achievement that he said that he came as a scientist but left as an artist. But of course, Takashi is a leading figure in artificial life research, and I think one of the most brilliant and creative researchers in that field. I'm not going to say that.
Yes, thanks so much. Well, thank you so much, Luke. Okay, so my talk is more like complementary to what Luke said, because I'm not a theoretical computer scientist, but my background is physics, and then I've been working on the high-dimensional dynamic systems, try to understand what is cognitive structures, and then what is the living systems. Well, first of all, so my talk today is using Android to understand where is I, and then whether the LLM can synthesize myself, right? And which I think is possible when you have an embodiment feedback onto the LLM. So LLM in the vacuum, I don't think they can create self, but once it's feedback by the sensory loops and embodiment grounded in the real space, then I think it is possible that they gradually having the sense of self and meta cognition, that what Luke just mentioned. And today's work is by three papers, and the main programmer is Yoshida-kun. Takahide, he's sitting in the back here, and then also Suzune Baba-san, that she wrote a master thesis related to this work. Okay. So the older Android I started to develop with Hiroshi Ishiguro from Osaka University in 2016, and then it was brought to public space in Icon, which people can come and touch and see how it works, how we interact with each other. That was quite interesting. For myself, it's my first time that see how people are interacting with Android. Then we have improved the strengths and degrees of freedom, all these things from Auto 1 to Auto 2 to Auto 3. So now that I'm working with Auto 3, my colleague Keiichi Shibuya, he's a musician, and he's also developing Auto 4 in Osaka University of Arts and something. Then I used Auto 3 to do composing music or other things, but also he's mimicking people's behavior in front of him because he has camera in his eyes. Okay, so mimicking is, I think, is very important because when the baby born, without mind, and the mind is transferred from mother to the baby. That's a very basic principle that I was thinking that human mind is offloaded from others. So that's why I think it's mimicking is a very important character of humankind, and also Android, when you want Android to be more autonomous agent. Okay. But then it was very difficult to go beyond imitation. It's very difficult to go beyond, mimicry, because we don't have the theory of meaning, and that was a very big impasse, right? Because there is no theory of meaning, right? People are just talking about the synchronization and desynchronization for 30 years, and then we cannot go beyond that, right? Okay, no more synchronization, right? For myself, it's okay, it's done, right? Then there is a new theory came out, which is large language model. So I was really shocked with this one, because LLM, what LLM has provided us was the theory of meaning. Before LLM came out, we don't know what's going on there, right? We just, okay, these guys are come close to each other and then go away, right? But we just have to interpret without knowing whether it's true or not. However, after LLM, there is meaning. We can understand what's out there, right? And that's a huge difference. So after having theory of meaning, we can go beyond synchronization and desynchronization. And that's, for me, because I've been studying it for more than 20 years, it's such a big revolutionary error. Right? Well, LLM is such a simple neural network without any recurrent loop even, right? Because there's just an attention layer, multiple perception, attention layer, multiple. It's just a integration of all these layers, and then it's a feedback network, and then like the 96 layers in GPT-3, but also you can have more of them in GPT-4 or like a deep sheet or other network, right? So just having this sandwich of attention layer and the multiple perception layer, then you can get a very interesting behavior, which is so surprising. So I just telling everybody, my lab, and then also when I go to the conference, okay, we have to do LLM. Don't do other things, right? LLM is just unique, important thing that we have to go for it, right? But of course, people are against me, right? We have such a long history of studying dynamical system. We have a long history of classic, robotics, blah, 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 right? However, you have to understand this is the first time that we have the theory of meaning, right? So we don't have to use metaphor to what's going on there. It's just out there, right? That was my feeling when I first met GPT-3, and after that, ChatGPT came out. So the first thing that I did with Takahide was, not just programming, but why don't you just tell Android what to do? Okay. So this time it's just take a selfie, and when I say take a selfie, is that there's one prompt which is express take a selfie in 10 different exaggerated sentences. Okay, and this prompt is going to the second prompt, which is generating a Python code corresponding to these exaggerated sentences. So this Python code is generated because we are always imported in the prompt that there's a 43 degrees of freedom in Android, and Android is driven by air compressor. So we know that the degree of freedom first axis is for the head, so that once you put number 0, then you can move head to this direction. But number 255, it goes this way. Only those numerical relationship was written and imported into the prompt every time. Okay. Then it goes like this. So I saw this too many times, maybe you guys, right? So I'm not surprised right now, but the first time when I saw this, I was so surprised. Hey man, I didn't program anything, but they just tell him, I just told him do selfie, and he does this. It was very surprising to me. And then, for example, like this one is the pretending ghost. So now that I'm not surprising, but pretending ghost is also possible without programming anything, right? Then, so this one is Revice playing the metal music, but because Takahide likes metal music, I don't know. But so this is almost impossible for us to program it manually, right? So that LLM is so strong in doing this. But when I submitted this, so I quickly wrote up the paper and then submitted it to the Science of Robotics and things. And then there's a reviewer came out and I said, well, the robot is a little bit shaky, and then I think you have to improve it. So what? So that's not the point. But the second reviewer says, well, can you measure how easy this one is by just programming or just telling by the LLM? So I was so shocked, how those people don't understand this, So maybe, it's much better to say, okay, you're right, so I have to write this. But instead of that, I said, are you okay? Why you understand what I'm doing? So now that this paper is still, somewhere is haven't been published yet. But then one of the reviewers says, but it's very interesting thing is that you always write a prompt, right? And this is not the spontaneous movement. So why don't you just, let it go and do himself, whatever he wants to do. I thought, what? So if you can do this, and then artificial life is over now, right? Because everything is there. But that time was 2023 December something. Then I thought, but Android has a camera, right? So if you got images can be interpreted by the LLM, then he can understand what's out there, right? So it's a view from his camera, right? Then I said, so we didn't have any prompt, but you can do whatever you want, action you want to do. And then he said, okay, the room is so messy with cables, so I want to clean up. So he started to clean up like this way. So I was so shocked. Okay, so spontaneity is already there, right? LLM can generate spontaneity. We don't have to, build something. Well, we don't need any chaotic dynamics. But it's already implemented in LLM. That was my understanding, right? So then I came to understand that sense making is there, right? So there is no value to the environment that he sees, right? Whether this messy is bad thing or the clean, ordered room is a good thing. It wasn't told by him. It wasn't told to him, but it was embedded in LLM again, right? And then why he started to clean up? I think it's very indirect because it's dark, it's messy, so he can clean up. So that there is a missing link from the view to the action causation. Okay. So that's what I was interested in this. Then, so I think sense making is literally the act of making sense of environment achieved by organizing sense data until the environment becomes sensible. This is I think it's very important, and it's understood well enough to enable reasonable decisions by himself. Okay? But then I was, we've been thinking that, okay, maybe then there is a self already. So that's a very dangerous zone, I know, right? So more and more you work with Android, more you think that, okay, he may understand what I'm saying and he may have a self-conscious, self-awareness. So we did a mirror experiment, and then, so no time to discuss this, but he understood that there's some robot in the mirror, but he couldn't recognize that it's himself, right? But, well, of course, what he can do is he just raises his hand and then checking by doing a try and error, right? And do this, and then the same thing happens, and same thing happens, and then he does. So he understood that what the figure in the mirror is also mimicking himself, but he didn't say that it's actually it's himself, but it's mimicking himself, right? However, when then I thought, maybe we need a pure perceptive section, right? Because it's always from the vision, right? So we put the bending sensor in the fingers, so that once you bending your fingers, then the sensation is coming to the body, to the LLM, and then he understands whether there is a sensation in his bending sensor or not. So we have a Arduino in his back, and then send the signal to the computer, and then return into the prompt. So then the task is to determine whether it is your hand or not. It's a bit complicated, but additional to the vision input, we also put proprioceptive sensory input into the text prompt. So we do this. The sensing is like this. The body. So each we have 4 sensors in pointing fingers and center fingers and the middle fingers, the ring fingers. Then which one is having activation and which one is not. And then also we are using OpenCV because it's difficult for this camera to understand which finger is there, right? So then Android start to try and error, right? Whether, like this, the hand is currently in a straight position, which doesn't provide enough evidence to determine if it's mine or not, so that I have to do it again. So he can stop it, right? He can stop and say, okay, this is my hand, but he can also continue, right? Okay, I do it again, right? The sound suggests that it is bent, which aligns with my intention. But that's what he said. So without having embodiment, he never says intention or it's my hand or something, right? As you may know that once you ask the same question to LLM without a body, and he said, okay, I'm an AI, I don't have hands, I don't have body. That's his normal answer. But once you do this, that he says that, like, however, the thumb is straight, contradicting my previous action, so blah, 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 that seems like he's mentioning his intention and his action and what the cause of the action, right? So this is spontaneous trial and error caused by himself. The red one is for the real hands, and the blue one is fake hands, right? So whether he can say it's actually this is not my hand because it's fake, right? And then we computed. So it's because very complicated, and I don't have time to always go into this part. But this is the true part, and this is the fake part, and then the probability of giving a right answer to it. Okay? So and VP, so this one, number one is combining vision and the perceptive sensors and the reflection of himself. The 3 things is coming into the prompt and then integrated it to answer the question. Okay, but number 7, for example, is just using the reflection. So he always, thinking by himself without having any sensory input from the outside. So my point is, what happens by combining or integrating all the information from the outside, and then whether he can correctly answer to the question or not. And of course, then I wanted to calculate, synergy and redundancy, because it's a bunch of different inputs coming, and the way to integrate those information is very important to understand what kind of concept that he can come up with. So it's a very interesting part, I think, but it's I only have 1 minute or something. But 2 minutes. But anyway, so I think it's a very important thing is that the mutual information is, I believe everybody knows the mutual information, right? However, this mutual information is not just between this input and this input, but this mutual information should measure with respect to the target, right? So this one is, answering, I am, this is my hand, is a state 1, and this is not my hand, is state 0, right? And with respect to that, you have to calculate, how much each information from vision or tactile sensation or reflection is committing to the sense of self. Right? So by doing this, that you can of course calculate each mutual information, then self-organization in the information space. So I calculated this synergy. Synergy is an interesting thing. This is the information from the vision, and this is information from the tactile sensors. But it's not just a simple linear superposition of 2 inputs, right? It's more than that. That's what we call synergy, right? So the final thing is that, well, the community is creating a corpus database, which is LLM. It's put into this the gigantic network inside. Then, once you have a sensory input and the motor output, and also coming back from the motor output because there is a perceptive sensors, then that creates sort of qualia or consciousness, I think. However, I think more to do with the sensory input is very important. What is coming from outside provides qualia. But I discussed with Okanoya that he also discusses that, well, this part is, the internal part is qualia. So in this term, that the LLM equals qualia. So I'm not sure whether the LLM is already contain qualia or not. I do think that once you have a external input, then the qualia emerges. So I think the qualia is an emergent phenomenon of integrating those informations. However, for example, like IIT, the people that think that qualia is coming from the structure of the network. So that's the very much debate between me and now. But yeah, so that's something that I want to discuss in all day in this conference. Thank you so much.
Okay, I guess we'll do one question, and then the discussion will be at the end.
So I'm trying to understand your main claim, Takashi, and I see basically two possibilities. One is that you think that LLMs actually have a sense of self, they are solving qualia, they have self-awareness, they have all of these amazing things. Second possibility is that you're using this as an example of the fact that the current theories of qualia self-awareness are ridiculous. Because if an LLM can do that, then it means that our current theories are stupid. Which one is it?
But I don't think it's that stupid, right? But I think LLM can solve most of the problem. But the things that you cannot solve is, fine-tuning is not effective enough, right? You just, send the API and get some weights and coming back. But maybe should understand what kind of noise is putting into the LLM. And this noise, well, you can call it biological noise, is coming from, to me, it's coming from embodiment itself. So using embodiment can provide noise into LLM, and that is the source of consciousness and things. So I think it's almost there, I think, but it's not there yet. So I cannot say that everything is ridiculous. Right? I'm not saying this, right? However, I think we are sort of approaching to what we have to understand about consciousness and self, sense of self. But we can discuss that, yeah. Also, I forgot to say that maybe Taniguchi-san is going to talk about, because society from the LLM is that it's something that we can share with the society. So without society, I don't think there's no free will, there's no common sense, and all this kind of thing. So that maybe the afternoon that he's going to talk about this. I think so.
Okay, so we.
Oh yes, yes.